I'm not sure if you can see this in the sunlight, but these trees here are full of starlings, and they are after chafing beetles, which we've got in the garden, and those beetles are attracted to yellow flowers. But busy chaps, not sure if you can hear them. Hope you can see them. So I'm back from a trip to the UK, and as many of you guys are going to know, I'm based in southern Hungary, where I've got a continental warm climate. Went over to the UK for personal reasons. If you watched the last video, you're going to know what that's about. And thanks for the comments on that. That was really appreciated. And especially to the person that was interested in the oxeye daisies. I can't wait for them to bloom, and I'll show you that as well. Now, on my way into Gatwick Airport, I always have a window seat, and for some strange reason what I like to do is look out onto the ground. Not for the view, I'm more interested in what's happening with the weather. And the comparison between what I saw going across the UK to what I saw coming back to Hungary was miles apart. Obviously we have different climates, temperate oceanic in the UK, and as I say, continental warm here. Continental warm climates means I get very cold winters and I get very hot summers. And they're predicting a very hot summer for us here in Hungary. Now, that causes me an issue, and that's all to do with watering. But not only that, I need to get my soil temperatures down. So this is a video coming up now that tells you all about how you can reduce that increase in soil temperature. As I'm talking to you, I've got a farmer driving up and down the field behind me here that you've seen in other videos. For some reason he's disking. All he's disking is sand, basically. You never know, he might plant something in the ground, but anyway, that's his loss, not mine. I can't control what somebody else does. Anyway, have a look at this video. Hope you're going to learn something from it. And then I'm going to show you what I'm going to be getting up to around here, because I need to do something about it. I can't have the soil temperatures getting too high. And I've got predictions of 42 degrees plus here in the summer. And I don't need that because my plants won't grow. So let's have a look at this, and then we'll come back and have a wander around. We're diving down into the dirt, literally, to talk about the soil health in hot climates. We all know plants struggle in the scorching sun, but what about the hidden world beneath them, the soil ecosystem? Now, believe it or not, extreme heat can be just as stressful for the amazing creatures living underground. Our soil is teeming with life, from microscopic bacteria and fungi to earthworms and also nematodes. And these busy little guys play a crucial role in the plant health. You see, the bacteria and fungi break down organic matter, and that releases the nutrients that plants can use. And the earthworms create tunnels that improve the drainage and aeration. Some microbes even protect plants from diseases. Now that's pretty good, right? But when the soil gets too hot, this underground crew starts to feel the heat. Microbial activity slows down, and some organisms simply can't survive. And this can have a big impact on our plants. This is because with fewer microbes decomposing organic matter, there are fewer nutrients available for the plant. Hot soil dries out faster, making it tough for both plants and microbes to get the moisture that they need. Now that's going to lead to stunted growth, lower yields, and even in some cases increased soil erosion. So, what can we do to keep our soil cool and our plants happy, even in hot climates? Well, mulch is your new best friend. This layer of organic matter acts like a protective blanket, shading the soil from the sun and helping it to retain moisture. Wood chips, bark, or even composted leaves are all great options. As the mulch decomposes, it adds valuable nutrients to the soil, making it a win-win situation. Don't forget cover crops. Planting these guys during the off-season provides shade for the soil and adds organic matter as they decompose. But in the hot summers you can still plant things like rye and other crops like that to do the same thing. So it's a double whammy for cool soil and healthy plants. How you water also matters. Deep watering encourages roots to grow down deeper, where they can access cooler and more stable moisture reserves. Whereas shallow watering will encourage surface roots and increases evaporation. Drip irrigation delivers water directly to the root zone, minimalising evaporation and keeping the soil surface cooler. Increasing your airflow can also help you reduce your soil temperatures. Something else to consider is to avoid compacting the soil by tilling too much. This is because a good soil structure allows for air circulation, which helps dissipate heat and promotes healthy microbial activity. Planting trees or tall shrubs around your garden creates a cooler microclimate by providing shade for the soil and also the surrounding plants. You might want to consider heat-tolerant plants because these guys are better equipped for hot temperatures and require less water, reducing soil moisture loss. In some areas, timing your plantings can also be key. Plant cool season crops in the fall or early spring and warm season crops during the hottest months when they can thrive. Just remember, healthy soil life is the foundation for a healthy and productive garden, even in hot climates. By implementing these strategies, you can create a cooler soil environment and keep your underground crew happy. So we've just been looking at the main idea of using a mulch to apply to our beds. So here's this compost area that we've got, and a lot of people wonder when is the best time to use the compost. And really, the best way to explain it is to look at it and think to yourself, well, has it changed? Ask yourself a question. Does the compost resemble anything like it did when you first put the stuff in there? And if the answer to that is no, well then it's changed and therefore I would use it. Okay, this isn't perfect. Look, he's just arrived. Hi, Jack. I shouldn't say hi, Jack. I was like a terrorist. Anyhow, back to this. This is a great mulch for me to use because it's going to hold the water. I know, mate. How are you? It's going to hold the water, and at the same time it's going to feed the soil and the soil life within. So this is the mulch I'm going to use. You might remember I said that I was transferring this across into this bay here, which is I don't know where he's going, which is what we're doing. And then into this one, you can see we've got the finished article. So all of this I can apply onto the beds, which is what I've been doing. You saw the video recently about the green waste compost, and there's a lot of debate about that, and there it is there, still using it. Again, I'm using that as a mulch, not as a feed as such. I have to retain the moisture, and so like I say, have a look at the video about the green waste because there's pros and cons to it, and I'm using it simply because I need to get as much organic matter into my soil as I possibly can. It's going to help me keep the moisture in, keep the temperatures down. I've got a few other tricks up on my sleeve, and there's that farmer. Look, he's finished disking. Anyway, he probably thinks I'm filming him. Doesn't matter. Doubt he watches the channel. Anyway, let's go and look at a few other bits and pieces and what I'm planning to do to keep my soil temperatures down. Now, I've got these areas here. And if we look down towards the fence line area there, it's pretty nondescript land. If you've seen the videos in the past of what I inherited here, it's basically bare soil with no life in it at all. And this area here, for some reason, seems to be quite good at growing grass. So what I've decided I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this grass as long as I can. I want it neat and tidy kind of thing, but I also want to be able to harvest it for the compost. So I'm going to keep the grass at a certain length, longer than usual. Now, I know in places like the UK, for example, people love their Wimbledon bowling green type lawns with the stripes in. You don't get that here because it's too hot. But I don't want it too short here because if I do, it won't, it'll die off in the summer, look horrible, and it will not reduce the soil temperature. So if I keep this ground covered as much as I can, then I've got a chance of keeping the soil temperatures down. All these flowers that you see, these are ragwort flowers. They're weeds at the end of the day. They don't do any good for anything. I know they're poisonous to some wildlife. I should just keep this topped, and I'll do the same to the front. And as we walk down towards the hose pipes, you can see that that's the other area there going towards the gate. So again, just a question of keeping it topped, nothing else. And I've got these things here. You normally see them in fields. Useless. For me, they're useless, and I'll tell you why. So they spray their water out, and yeah, okay, they do a bit of watering, but the problem with it is that it's not precise enough. You've got to have these on for such a long time to get any results, and so for me, it's not going to work for me. So what I need to do is water by hand, and I've got over 20 beds in here. That's a lot of watering. Look at this asparagus. It's shot up in the last couple of days. I need to knock out these big spears here. They're quite thick. I mean, I've never seen them this thick before. I don't know if you remember, I planted these from seed 3 years ago. So this is harvest time. I need to take these out, but this bed is absolutely rammed solid with organic matter. Horse manure, compost, green waste, everything is in there. There's a bit of weed obviously, and this is really thriving. So it just shows you that by getting that organic matter in, for each piece you put in, you get 10 times the amount of water retention. So this shows you that it can work. And if you don't believe me, if you don't go asparagus, maybe you go strawberries. Well, take a look at these guys. Exactly the same principle. A really deep bed of mulch, and they're thriving. I did do one other thing to these strawberries the other day. I put the lawnmower across it on its high setting, and it hasn't done it any harm whatsoever, as you can see. So I just took the top off. Same with this one here, which is the new bed. This one needs weeding, so I have to get the lady of the house in here. But again, as you can see, these beds full of organic matter are holding the moisture, and these strawberries are really beginning to kick on now. So exciting times. Now this is another bed that I've sown directly into the ground, into the beds. We've got some celery seeds I popped in there, some rainbow chard that's going to be there, and then the rest, and some beetroots here. And in this bed, this is a bed full of carrots. Now I don't know why, but some people seem to think you need a piece of wood to grow carrots. But as you can see on this bed here, there's no planks of wood on here whatsoever, because just hang on a second. Any seed is from a plant, okay? When you sow the seed, where in nature does when a seed is sown, for example a carrot, a plank of wood appears to help it germinate? Come on, it doesn't happen. So this seems to be yet another trend that people want to talk about. Just put them in the ground, and all you've got to do is keep that bed moist, and once it's germinated, you're away. Planks of wood, if you want to do it, do it. I'm not saying don't do it, and I'm sure it might work, but why have extra work for yourself? You know, I suppose it depends on the space that you've got and how many carrots. You know, okay, this is a big bed of carrots, but am I really going to put planks of wood across there? No, I'm not. I don't need to, and neither do you. But if you want to do it, by all means, go ahead. But you don't need to. Keep your bed moist, so the seeds will germinate, no problem whatsoever. But you've got to water it. But if that bed's got loads of organic matter in there, half your work's already done. So we're now looking at two of the new beds that I've created. And what we've got in here is we've got a selection of beans. So we've got some soya beans in here, we've got some butter beans, and we've got some broad beans. And it's going to be, I want to see how they go. And also with the broad beans, I'm interested not only to get a crop, but I want to see if we get any pests on there like black fly. I know that happens a lot in the UK. I've seen black fly here on our elder. So if they come onto here, it's going to give me a great opportunity to test my new organic insecticidal soap, which is only 3 ingredients that you've got in your kitchen. So when I make that, I'll tell you all about it, and hopefully it's going to work well. But again, Loads of organic matter in these guys, and it's going to help me keep the moisture in. But as you can see, I've got the hoses here. I'm just going to have to do it by hand, so I know I get a good deep watering in here. And in between each bed, I'm going to leave this grass to grow, because it's going to help me keep that soil temperature down, which is key. Because if this was all just bare soil, it's going to bake in the summer, and then the heat's going to radiate out back down towards the back of the house, which is something that we don't want. One of my biggest frustrations is that I can never get an accurate weather forecast. Don't know how many of you will remember the 1980s, but in 1987, Michael Fish, who was a pretty well known, and is still today because of this, was a well-known weather forecaster for the BBC. And he made this comment, which was, he received a phone call from a lady who said that she'd heard that there was a hurricane coming. And that was on his forecast, live on TV. And he said along the lines of, don't worry, Mrs. whatever her name was, it's not happening. You might get a bit of rain and you might get a bit of wind. And then you had the 1987 storm that hit the whole of the south of England. And I vaguely remember it. I actually slept through it, but boy, the damage the following day was amazing. And that's the whole point about weather forecasts, is that you can never get an accurate, idea of what's happening unless it's a day by day basis. When you look outside at the, and you look at the sky and you get a bit of an idea, and you might look at some radar images that you're seeing and try and work it out for yourself. You know the winter's going to be cold and you know the summer's going to be hot, but you don't know how hot or how cold. What I do know is it's going to get very hot here for me in the summer. So not only do I need to keep that soil temperature down, but I also need to be able to grow crops that can adapt and grow well in that particular kind of environment. Now, when I flew across to the UK, like I've mentioned, I could see so much water on the ground. And from what I understand from various channels that I've seen, that the UK in particular has had a very wet autumn, a very wet winter, and a pretty wet and damp, miserable spring. So it's knocked back not only the growing season to get stuff into the ground, but it's caused all sorts of issues with walking around, and getting on people's plots, for example, which can help cause compaction, which is something else that you don't want. Because when you're watering, you don't want compaction in your ground, because the water's it's just going to sit, it's not going to do anything. So, there's struggles for us growers and gardeners everywhere. I'm not telling you this is how you should do something. I'm just showing you what I do and why I do it and what I've got to deal with, because every garden is different. There's no point in me telling you how to sow a seed, because like I've said recently, if you don't know now, you never will. And of course you're a grower, so you know how to do it, and you should know how to make compost. And if you want to know how to do any of that stuff, you can look at how I do mine. But my rules aren't set in stone. I just need to do something here to produce food for us to eat here in southern Hungary in a continental warm climate. A lot of people could turn around and say, oh, all this adverse weather is all to do with climate change. And yeah, it probably is. But the thing is, you can have all these people protesting about it, or, the Stop Oil campaign in the UK where they're throwing orange powder all over the place. But the fact of the matter is, it's not going to change anytime soon. And if I wanted to be a climate activist, for example, I have to make a choice. Do I do this, or do I go on protests? And all I can really do is think, okay, I'm not using fertilizers and I'm not using chemicals and all this kind of stuff. Therefore, my particular space is okay for this particular area. But when I've got a bloke out there with his great big tractor and I'm surrounded by thousands of acres of agricultural farm, they are going to use it. And there's no time soon when the whole of the agricultural world will suddenly go, oh, let's all become organic. It's not going to happen. The quicker we realise that, the better. Focus on your own space, and then you're doing something. And it's little things can add up. But in my lifetime, it's not going to change much. And hopefully people can see stuff like this and see how it works, and then pass it on to their kids, and slowly but surely the difference will come. But what I did notice in the UK was a lot of people don't have a lot of time. They get up in the mornings, they get the kids ready, they rush out the door, phone in hand, laptop in the other, jump in the car and whiz off to work and drop the kids off at school. And then they go for the lunch and they grab whatever it is they can get back to work, and then come home again and do the reverse, pick up the kids from school, bring them in, feed the kids, get them to do their homework, and then where's the time to go and grow their own stuff? They haven't got it. If you're lucky enough to have an allotment, then brilliant. You're making a difference. But for those that haven't, or they can't, for whatever reason it might be, maybe for them, just to get some good quality fruit and veg inside them and move them away from ultra-processed foods, go to the local farmer's market. And if you're a grower, you can supply that farmer's market. So you can be making a bit of a difference in that regard, perhaps. So I guess what I'm saying is that climate change is here. As an individual, there's not much I can do about it. And as an individual, neither can you. You have to make a choice. Do you want to get involved in something like that? Greenpeace or whatever it might be, or even make donations? Or do you want to make a difference to your family and grow your own stuff? Well, for me, my time is taken up in doing just that here. And as you know, my target is this year to go from 500 kilos of produce, which we did last year, to 1,000 this year. That temperature up there isn't going to help me down here. So I have to find ways of reducing that soil temperature to keep my plants growing and give me as much of a produce as I possibly can get. So that's organic matter, and it's, you know, good quality watering of the soil, because the soil has the life and that feeds the plant, not the plant itself. I want to be watering all of it, the soil, which in turn gets that plant the nutrients that it needs. It's a tough shout, but that's all I've got to work with here. So it's going to be an interesting few months to see how it goes. And you never know, you'll probably see me wandering around here wearing my shorts because it's so flipping warm. Warm temperatures aren't always a bad thing. You can use everything to your advantage. Now, in my particular case here, often when we have a cold winter, we worry a lot about the blossom on our fruit trees. When you get the blossom on the fruit trees, you should know that my orchard is 3 years old. That if you've got blossom and you get a frost, you lose the fruit because it kills the blossom and you get no fruit that year. It's interesting this year that our winter was a lot warmer than normal, and the blossom has stayed on the trees. And in fact, I've got a couple of pear trees where the blossoms come out later and it was full of it. So it's going to be interesting to see what harvest I get off the fruit trees this year. But another big issue with regards to the climate is that last month I should have had 50 millimeters of rain. Now I know UK you can get that in a couple of days, but that's because your climate's completely different. But in the continental warm climate here for me, I got 15.2 mil of rainfall. I should have had 55. Now going back to the weather predictions, the other day I was looking at the forecast and it said I was going to get 8 mil. I got 1 mil. That's nothing. So it's important for me to adopt different principles in order to get, I've got a bee flying around me now. See, that's how warm it is. I've got to get these different principles in place to give me the best chance I can get of producing the produce that we want. So follow me throughout the year and see how we get on. For now, take care and I'll catch you soon.